We're going to be taking a southern road trip along Interstate 20. Come on, let's go! Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing Interstate 20 eastbound. Interstate 20 definitely does feel most like the southmost interstate, as it goes through the heart of the southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina, along with Texas. And oh boy, does some of these states show the worst of themselves. As you can see here, we're going to be passing by some really bad mileage signs. So let's get started with this cool 1,500 mile road. But first, you're watching The TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free extra request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of Interstate 20 as it runs from a junction with Interstate 10 out in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, all the way over to Interstate 95 in Florence, South Carolina. And this colored portion is the part that I've been on personally. So with that, we're talking about eastbound Interstate 20. So we begin here in Texas, where we meet with Interstate 10. And right off the bat, we're getting signed for Dallas and Fort Worth, which is totally cool. For our first mileage sign, we get Abilene as our primary from 285 miles away. I mean, that's still not bad because Abilene is still a pretty big city in western Texas. Our first junction on Interstate 20 is exit 3 for Stocks Road. And at random interchanges, 20 East is getting signed for Monahans. That's literally the first town we're going to be passing through. Why can't you sign Abilene, TxDOT? And our next mileage sign, we still get Abilene as our primary from 218 miles away. And then in Monahans, we're now getting signed for Odessa. I mean, that's still not a good choice. I prefer to see Abilene here. And then our next mileage sign, we go Odessa on the top line and Abilene still as our primary from still 200 miles away. And here you are meeting with US Highway 385, and 385 is signed for Crane and Andrews. And let us see what we're signed for on 385. Now we're getting signed for Midland. Okay. And in Midland, we're now getting signed for Big Spring. And next mileage sign, we still get Abilene as our primary from 127 miles away. So I see TxDOT is just town hopping here, and I do not like that. And here in Big Spring, we meet with US Highway 87, which is getting signed for San Angelo. And here in Big Spring, we're now getting signed for Colorado City, which is the next town we'll be passing through. And here in Colorado City, we're now getting signed for Sweetwater. Now I kind of see why Todd skipped this entire portion of Interstate 20, because it's just town hopping after town hopping after town hopping. It's just an endless cycle of town hopping. But finally, when you reach Roscoe, we now get Abilene as our primary. Well done, TxDOT. And here in the Abilene area, we meet with US Highway 84, and we now get a pull through for Fort Worth, which is definitely correct. Still in the Abilene area, we meet with US 83 and 277, and we still get a pull through for 20 East for Fort Worth. And at random junctions, we are getting signed for Fort Worth, so that is good. Guys, apparently I forgot to read the EULA for the entire interstate highway system, so I need to travel to this exit here to read it. And then here you are meeting with US Highway 283 in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, as it's getting signed for Albany and Coleman. But our next mileage on, we get Eastland now as our primary from 18 miles away. What's happened to Fort Worth? I want to see Fort Worth, TxDOT. And then here you are meeting with US Highway 281, and we now get a pull through for 20 East for both Dallas and Fort Worth. And this exit here is actually will take you over to US Highway 180, as we're about to meet it at a Y junction, so you can't go westbound on 180 going east on 20. And then a little ways up the road, we now meet the western terminus of Interstate 30, which will take you to downtown both Fort Worth and Dallas, while 20 will take you to Dallas and Shreveport, which are good choices. And then here in the Fort Worth area, we're meeting with both US 377 and Interstate 820, as we're now getting signed east for Dallas. Here we are meeting with Interstate 35W at exit 437. This exit is quarter-mile approved. And here is where we split off from Interstate 820 and US Highway 287, as we still get a pull-through for 20 east for Dallas. I also like this exit 444 here too. Here are meeting the President George Bush Turnpike, and it just gets the President George Bush Turnpike with no control cities. Now we're meeting with US Highway 67 being signed south for Claiborne and north for Dallas, while we now get a pull through for 20 east for Shreveport. And if you want to check out a cool series on US Highway 67, it's in the top right corner here, made by A.R. Nathan. Here you are meeting with Interstate 35E now, as it's being signed for Dallas and Waco respectively. And starting this portion on to basically the Atlanta area, I'm going to be showing most of my own pictures of Interstate 20. And here's my picture of Interstate 45 meeting Interstate 20, getting awesome control cities. Here you are meeting with US Highway 175, and 20 east is still getting signed east for Shreveport. And here you are meeting Interstate 635, and it actually gets control cities? That is unheard of here in Texas. That is awesome. And here's a cool picture of a sunrise when I was traveling Interstate 20 back in October to head home. And here's a really bad mileage sign, but we can see that Shreveport is now 139 miles away. And here's a better mileage sign, now Shreveport being closer. And here we meet Farm to Market 314 at exit 540 here. Now we're meeting with Texas Toll Highway 49 in, I believe, Tyler. And then here we're meeting with US Highway 259, as we're now getting signed concurrent with it for Shreveport and Longview. And here's where 259 splits off from Interstate 20, as it's getting signed north for Longview. And we're also meeting with Texas 149, and a cool thing is that I actually did stop at this exit back in October. And then here we get our last mileage sign in the state of Texas, with Shreveport now as our primary from 49 miles away. And here we pass by US Highway 59 being signed for Marshall and Carthage. And this here is the last exit in Texas at exit 635. Yes, we have traveled 635 miles on this interstate. And here we are entering into the state of Louisiana, and last time I was on Interstate 20, I actually stopped at the Welcome Center and got a cool selfie with this Louisiana sign. I also got a cool selfie of the very first exit on Interstate 20 in Louisiana for Louisiana 169 and US Highway 79. And here we meet with US Highway 80 and US 79 as they're getting signed for Greenwood here. Anyways, up the road, we're now meeting with Interstate 220, which is the Shreveport bypass, but we're going to be staying on Interstate 20 here. We're going to be doing 220 in the West 20 video. And here's my own picture of US Highway 171 meeting Interstate 20 in the heart of Shreveport. Now we're meeting with Interstate 49 getting signed south for Alexandria, while we now get east for Monroe. Personally, I like to see Monroe and Jackson here because Jackson is our next major town we'll be passing through. And here we meet with US Highway 71, and 71 is actually going to have a very, very short concurrency with us as we head towards Monroe and Jackson. Here's a cool picture of the Shreveport skyline here. And on the other side of Shreveport, we meet with Interstate 220 once again, and we still get 20 east for Monroe. I also want to see Jackson on there, Louisiana. Here you're arming with US Highway 371, and 371 is now going to be concurrent with Interstate 20.
Look how small this tiny 371 shield is. It's so tiny.
And at random junctions, Interstate 20 is being signed for Monroe. At least Louisiana is consistent. And at random junctions, we are getting signed for Monroe as our primary from 67 miles away. Hey, we meet with US Highway 80 once again. This time it's being signed for Ada and Taylor. I'm going to be taking a deep dive into US Highway 80 next week, so I might rant about these places. Who knows? Now we're meeting with Louisiana Highway 154, and hey, why is it being signed for Athens? Here we meet with Louisiana Highway 9. Yay, the number 9. And then a couple miles up the road, we're now meeting with Louisiana Highway 151, which is being signed for Dubuque and Arcadia. And this one exit was very fascinating to me, as they have a parish route sign for just some small county road. Here we meet with US Highway 167 in Ruston, and we sadly do not get a mention of US 63, because this is the southern terminus of US 63. For our next mileage time, we get Monroe still as our primary from only 11 miles away. Come on now, Louisiana. Put either Vicksburg or Jackson on here. We do not need a mileage time with only Monroe from 11 miles away. Sign our next primary. And then here in Monroe, we're now meeting with US Highway 165 getting signed for Bastrop and Columbia. And we're now getting signed 20 East for Vicksburg. No, I want to see Jackson. Jackson is bigger than Vicksburg and is 30 miles up the road further. So sign Jackson. For our next mileage time, we get Vicksburg as our primary from 69 miles away. And then a ways up the road, we now pass by Louisiana Highway 609, and hey, that's my sign. That's my dime. Give it back. And at random junctions here in eastern Louisiana, we are still getting signed for Vicksburg. I prefer to see Jackson, but like I said earlier, at least Louisiana is consistent. And here we get another mileage time with Vicksburg still as our primary from 35 miles away. Now we're meeting with US Highway 65 being signed for Vidalia, and I don't want to try to pronounce the second town. Okay, if you thought that one mileage sign with Monroe from 11 miles away was a bad one, this one's even worse. We get Delta on the top line from only 2 miles away, and Vicksburg as our primary from 6 miles away. You know, there's places beyond Vicksburg you can sign Louisiana. You do not need to sign it from 6 miles away. This mileage sign belongs on like a very unimportant state route, not on a major cross-country interstate like Interstate 20. So why in the world are you doing this? Why? Just sign something beyond Vicksburg. Do Jackson. Jackson should be on this mileage sign. Delta is basically nothing. What are you doing here, Louisiana? And here in Delta, we meet with US Highway 80, and 80 and 20 are going to be concurrent as we cross the Mississippi River here. And as you can see, there is nothing in Delta, so why was it signed on that previous mileage sign? And here we are about to cross over the Mississippi River, and we're going to be meeting US Highway 61 on the other side of the river. And here we get a pull through for 61 and Interstate 20, and sadly we just get a pull through and no Control City. So I see Mississippi is also neglecting Jackson. And they're also neglecting Interstate 20 here. Where did Interstate 20 go? And a couple miles up the road, we finally do get a pull through with Jackson as our primary. It should have been signed basically from Shreveport. Here's where US 61 splits off from Interstate 20 to head north towards Rolling Fork in Yazoo City, as we're going to be heading east towards Jackson. And then we get Jackson as our primary from only 32 miles away. But when we get closer to Jackson, we still get as our primary. So I see that MDOT is following in footsteps of Louisiana and is signing a place from only 13 miles away. Why can't you do Meridian or Tuscaloosa or Birmingham? No need for Jackson from 13 miles away. Come on, MDOT. Here are the Natchez Trace Parkway. I'd like to do a video on that someday. It is a very interesting road. And this is where US 80 splits off from us, and we just get a pull through for Interstate 20. No, I want to see either Meridian or Tuscaloosa or Birmingham here, not just 20 East by itself. Now we're meeting with US Highway 49 along with our second Interstate 220 here, as 49 South is going to be joining with us as we head towards Meridian and Hattiesburg. Now we're meeting with Interstate 55 here, and we do not need that Grenada on there. Memphis is just fine for Interstate 55. As you can see here, there is no other highway concurrent with 55, so take off that Grenada and just put Memphis. 2 cities are fine for 20, but 2 for 55 is not. And after splitting off from Interstate 55, we do get Meridian now as our primary from 85 miles away. And on our way to Meridian, we pass by Mississippi Highway 18 and hey! Give that Raleigh back, MDOT. That only belongs here in North Carolina. Now we're meeting with US Highway 80, which is being signed for Lake and Florence at exit 100. Now we're meeting with Mississippi Highway 15, which is being signed for Newton, Philadelphia. Now we're meeting with Interstate 59, being signed south for Laurel and New Orleans. New Orleans is definitely a good choice here. While 59 North and 20 are now going to be concurrent as we head towards Tuscaloosa and Birmingham. You're arming with US Highway 11 and Mississippi Highway 19, and for some random reason, MDOT decided to put those 2 highways over Interstate 59 and 20 on a pull-through here. Where did 20 and 59 go? Hey, guess what? It's neglecting of Interstate 20 Episode 2 now. Yippee! And on the outskirts of Meridian, we meet with US Highway 45 being signed north for Macon and south for Quitman. And I did manage to get my own picture of this exit, but only for 45 northbound, so oops. And here we get another mileage time. We now get Tuscaloosa as our primary still from 91 miles away, which I say is an alright choice. And here's my own picture of entering into the state of Alabama. And our first mileage shine in Alabama, we get Tuscaloosa as our primary still from 72 miles away. And then further up the road, we now get Tuscaloosa from 40 miles away and Utah as our secondary. You're arming with US 11 and US 43 as they're consigned for Knoxville. Hey, maybe this is why Tennessee and Alabama are rivals in sports, because they're fighting over which Knoxville is better. Our next mileage time, we get Birmingham now as our primary. Well done, AlDOT. And here in Tuscaloosa, we meet with Interstate 359 and Alabama Highway 69, as we're now getting signed northeast for Birmingham, which definitely is the correct choice. Here we are meeting with US Highway 82, still in the Tuscaloosa area. And this intersection was actually requested by Ryan Golden, as they were on US 82 as they went to tour the University of Alabama and also used 82 to get from Tuscaloosa down to Tallahassee. So thank you for that request. I hope you enjoyed your tour of visiting the University of Alabama. And we're meeting with US Highway 11 for another time. And then here it is once again, meeting this time concurrent with Alabama Highway 5. Here we meet with Interstate 459 as it's getting signed for Gadsden and Atlanta, while we're still getting signed for Birmingham. And I will be doing Interstate 459 in a couple of weeks, and I will be talking about its control cities, so stay tuned for that. And on the outskirts of downtown Birmingham, we're meeting with US Highway 78, and we can see in the distance that we're going to be meeting Interstate 65 soon. In fact, here's that meeting with Interstate 65 as we're now getting signed for Atlanta and Gadsden. I do not agree with that, Gadsden. That should definitely be Chattanooga because 59 ends at 24 and 24 will take you up to Chattanooga. Here's where we split off from Interstate 59 after a very, very, very long concurrency with it, as we're now getting signed east for Atlanta. Here on the other side of Birmingham, we meet with Interstate 459, as 20 East is now getting signed for Atlanta still. And here's my own picture of 20 meaning US Highway 78 in front of this Leeds Buc-ee's here. And here's Interstate 20 meaning the southern terminus of US Highway 411. In our next mileage line, we do get Atlanta still as our primary from 135 miles away. And we now are concurrent with US Highway 78, and this 78 shield looks very weird. Here is where 78 splits off from Interstate 20 as it's being signed for Eden and Pell City. And at our next mileage line, we still get Atlanta still as our primary from 123 miles away. And here in Pell City, we meet with US Highway 231. And last time I was on Interstate 20, I actually stopped at a really delicious place. It was actually a buffet called City Market Grill and Buffet. I definitely would check that place out if you're ever in the Pell City area. It was really good. Here we are meeting with US Highway 431 in Oxford, Alabama, and 431 is going to be concurrent with us. Here's where 431 splits off from us as it gets no control city for some reason. I think it should be Auburn because that's where 431 goes. And then it's up the road, we're now entering into the state of Georgia, so let us see what Georgia has to offer on Interstate 20. And our first major interchange in Georgia is US Highway 27, being signed for Bremen and Carrollton. And our first mileage sign in Georgia, we get Atlanta still as our primary from 45 miles away. Here's my own picture once again of Interstate 20 meeting Interstate 285, and 285 gets awesome control cities. Now we're meeting with US Highway 29, which will take you over to US Highway 19 as they're getting signed for a couple of Kentucky treatments, while we're also going to be meeting the exit, which will take you over the State Farm Arena too. Here we're meeting with Interstate 75 and 85, and just like Interstate 285, they also get good control cities here too. And always up the road, we're now meeting with US Highway 23 as it's being signed the Kentucky treatment because we're still basically in the Atlanta area. And on the other side of the city, we're meeting with 285 once again, and we're now getting signed east for Augusta, which definitely is a good choice. Here we meet with US Highway 278, and 278 is now going to be concurrent with us for 15 miles. And here's where 278 splits off from Interstate 20 as it's being signed for Covington and Oxford. Here we get a mileage on with Augusta as our primary from 105 miles away. And then here in Madison, Georgia, we meet with US 129 and 441 as they'll take you into downtown Madison. And then we up the road, we now meet with US Highway 78, I believe for the last time, as it's being signed for Thompson and Washington. Now we're meeting with Interstate 520 in the Augusta area as it's the bypass route around Augusta. And 20 East is now getting signed for Columbia, which definitely is the correct choice. On our last mileage sign in Georgia, we get Columbia as our primary from 73 miles away. And we're now entering into the state of South Carolina. So let us see what South Carolina has to offer on Interstate 20. And our first major exit in South Carolina is Interstate 520, as we're now getting signed for Columbia still. In fact, South Carolina does keep up with Columbia as our primary from 63 miles away. I decided to skip ahead to the Columbia area because the portion of Interstate 20 between Columbia and Augusta is just very boring. And here I'm meeting with US Highway 1, which is being signed for the Columbia Airport in West Columbia. But our next mileage time, we get Columbia now as our primary from 11 miles away. So why is there a theme of having a mileage sign with our primary from only being 11 miles away? Why in the world are we following in the steps of Louisiana, SC Dot? Here in the heart of Columbia, we meet with Interstate 26 as it's being signed east for Columbia because we're a couple miles north of downtown, while 26 west is being signed for Spartanburg, which definitely is the correct choice. And if you saw my Interstate 26 video, Greenville is technically our primary, as they like to do a Greenville-Spartanburg dual control city thing. And if you want to check out my video on Interstate 26, it's in the top right corner here. Here's my own picture of Interstate 20 meeting South Carolina Highway 277, which will take you over to Interstate 77. And here we are meeting with Interstate 77 as we're now getting signed east for Florence. I mean that's an alright choice because that's the eastern terminus of Interstate 20, but I prefer to see Florence and Fayetteville because it's most likely that people are taking 20 east just to go on 95 north. On our way to Florence, we passed by US Highway 601 getting signed for Lugoff and Camden, and we're also passing by US 521, which is getting signed for Sumter and Camden. And then here's my own picture of US Highway 15 meeting Interstate 20, getting signed for Sumter and Bishopville. And here we get our next mileage time with Florence now as our primary from 29 miles away. And here's my own picture of Interstate 20 meeting the Great US 401, getting signed for Timmonsville and Darlington. And here we get our last mileage sign. We get Florence as our primary from 15 miles away. I mean, personally, I like to see Fayetteville on here too because people are most likely going to be taking 95 north over 95 south. Because if you wanted to get to places on 95 south, you would have probably taken like other highways to get there instead of staying on 20 the entire time. And then we finally end Interstate 20 here at Interstate 95, where South Carolina has made an error shield here, as they're saying that Interstate 20 continues with Interstate 95 south, but that is not the case, as this is supposed to be Interstate 20 business, which will take you into downtown Florence. In fact, why not? Why not just take Interstate 20 business into downtown Florence? Here we get a reassurance shield for Interstate 20 business. And our first major junction is this road here, which will take you over to the Visitors Information Center, and we're going to be staying straight to head towards US Highway 76. In fact, we do end at US Highway 76 here, which is getting signed for Francis Mary University and Myrtle Beach, which are definitely good choices. So with that, we do end Interstate 20 and move on to, the places I'll go. So these are all the places that I'd visit and would recommend because I've been on a majority of Interstate 20. And here's my list. If you have any other places for me to visit along this interstate, please let me down in the comment section below, and one day I'd love to check them out. So with that, we end Interstate 20 eastbound. Thank y'all so much for watching this episode on Interstate 20 eastbound. I hope you got to learn a little bit more about the highway, and I hope one day that you also get to travel this interstate too, because it surely was a very cool interstate to travel on. So with that, here are my next few highways. If you have any intersection requests for any of these upcoming highways, please let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to shout you out once those highways release. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week as we do US 80.